Rain lashed against the window of the cramped hospital room like it was trying to break in. Like it, too, was desperate to be heard. Amara Bailey sat beside her mother's hospital bed, clutching the woman's frail hand like a lifeline. The machines beeped steadily, cruelly reminding her that each second that passed was another dollar she couldn't afford. Her mother's eyes fluttered open, clouded with pain and morphine. "Baby, you should go rest," she whispered. Amara smiled, though it cracked something inside her. "Not tonight, Mama. I'm right here." But Amara wasn't really here. She was drifting, drowning, in the weight of a decision that would change everything. Outside the room, standing like a monument to privilege, was Blake Whitmore. He was tall, sharp, and dressed like the CEO of his own shadow. Everything about him said control. His voice, his posture, even the way his watch gleamed under the sterile hospital light. He had come not out of kindness, but with an offer. $750,000 for an unlisted treatment that could save her mother's life. The drug was in his private labs. The doctors had already said it might work. But there was a catch. Marriage. Not love. Not romance. Contract. Public performance. A beautiful lie. She would become his wife in name only, a trophy for press appearances, a prop for his upcoming merger. No questions. No rights. No exit clause. "I can save your mother today," he said quietly, watching her with unsettling calm. "Or you can keep fighting this impossible war for months and lose her slowly. You have until midnight." That was 3 hours ago. Now, in the silence of that hospital room, the weight of it crushed her. Amara had fought for everything in her life. Scholarships, rent, dignity. She worked nights as a barista and mornings teaching dance to kids who barely had shoes. But none of that mattered here. Money was the only language death understood. She kissed her mother's forehead, stood up, and walked out. Blake was still there, scrolling through his phone like this was just another transaction, because to him it was, "I'll do it," she said, her voice breaking. He looked up, not surprised, not touched, just satisfied. "I've already prepared the documents." They went to his car, sleek, black, and soundproof. A notary sat in the back seat, silent as a ghost, holding a manila folder thick with legal chains. The contract was 63 pages long. Amara's hands trembled as she skimmed the clauses. No children, no external communication without approval, full surrender of medical and financial power. In exchange, her mother would be transferred to a private facility by morning. The treatment would begin immediately. She paused on a paragraph. In the event of the spouse's death, the estate remains under the control of Whitmore Holdings. She looked up at Blake. "What if I die?" He didn't blink. "Then I'll ensure you're remembered beautifully." The pen felt heavier than any weapon she'd ever held. And when she signed, something inside her fractured. She had sold her future to buy her mother a few more tomorrows. Blake took the folder, smiled coldly, and said, "Welcome to the family." As they drove away from the hospital, Amara didn't cry. She just stared out the window, trying to memorize the last few blocks of freedom she'd ever know. She didn't see herself as a bride. She saw herself as a prisoner in silk. And somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, "Run." The wedding was a lie wrapped in luxury. A televised event in Tuscany, with doves released at sunset, pearls stitched into Amara's veil, and a designer gown that felt more like a shroud. Everyone called her lucky. Every woman wanted her life. But not a single one of them could hear her screams behind her diamond smile. Blake held her hand like he owned it, gripping, not guiding. His kisses were cold, always for the cameras, always a performance. Amara's eyes never sparkled in the photos. She had learned not to blink so the flash wouldn't catch the truth. When they returned to the estate, a fortress in the Colorado mountains, her world narrowed. Room by room, she was silenced. The staff wouldn't speak to her. Eye contact was discouraged. Her phone, replaced with a custom device that filtered every outgoing call. Social media accounts vanished overnight. Her old email passwords no longer worked. Even her dance studio website redirected to a curated blog about her blissful new life. She confronted Blake. He smiled like he was tucking in a child. "This is just to protect you," he said. "The world's a vicious place. You're safer without distractions." Safe. The word tasted like poison now. Amara soon realized every mirror in the house had a tiny black dot in the corner. Camera. She confirmed it when she twisted one loose and found a blinking red light behind the glass. She smashed it. Blake didn't even get angry. He simply replaced it within the hour. The housekeeper whispered once, slipping her a note in a teacup, "You're not the first." The next morning, the woman was gone. Blake said she returned to Europe. No forwarding address. No goodbye. That night, Amara wandered the halls and found a locked door at the end of the West Wing. When she asked Blake what was inside, his expression turned to stone. "Memories," he said, "and ghosts. Stay out." So, of course, she waited until he left for a business trip, picked the lock, and stepped into a mausoleum of his past. The room was a replica of their wedding suite. Same bed, same flowers, a photo of Blake with another woman in the same dress Amara wore. His ex-wife, Eleanor. The resemblance was haunting, down to the smile, down to the angle of the tilt in her head. Amara's knees buckled. This wasn't just a marriage. This was a reanimation. She wasn't a partner. She was a puppet carved to look like the dead. In the back of the closet, she found Eleanor's journal. The final page read, "He doesn't love women. He collects them. I don't think I'll live long enough to see this book finished." The ink bled into the paper, like tears. Amara staggered back to her own room, heart thundering. She opened her phone, Blake's controlled device, and tried to reach anyone. But every contact led to voicemail. Desperate, she powered it off and used the mirror in the bathroom, blinking Morse code into it, hoping someone on the staff was watching the security feed. It was the only chance she had. Later that night, as she lay in bed, Blake curled beside her like a predator. "Eleanor used to cry herself to sleep too," he murmured. "But she got used to it." Amara didn't move, didn't speak, but her mind screamed louder than ever. She wasn't going to survive this by crying. She was going to survive by becoming something Blake had never seen coming. Something sharp. There was no sunrise in the estate, only shadows that lengthened with time. Amara began to fade. Not physically, not yet. But something inside her was unraveling, thread by thread. She would wake up and forget her own age. Misremember how she liked her tea. Whole days blurred into silence and blank walls. And sometimes, she swore she heard Eleanor crying through the vents. It wasn't madness. It was design. She wasn't going crazy. Blake was gaslighting her into becoming a ghost. But ghosts have memory. One afternoon, while Blake entertained foreign investors downstairs, Amara broke into the locked wine cellar beneath the West Wing. It had taken her weeks to find the keys. Hidden in the lining of one of Blake's winter coats, the one he only wore when meeting senators. The door groaned open like it had been waiting. She didn't find wine. She found archives, hard drives, dozens, labeled with dates, cameras, names. Amara plugged one into an old tablet and pressed play. Eleanor smiling, dancing, then arguing, crying, screaming. Footage of her being shoved in the garden, pulled back into the house by her hair. A clip with no audio of Blake holding her wrists against the marble floor. And then, a blank. Just static. Amara's stomach turned. She opened another file. A different woman. Different time. Same ending. She counted 4 before she stopped. Each woman lived in the same room. Each had the same laugh. Each had a ring Blake custom designed to mimic his mother's wedding band. Amara wore that ring now. A sickening chill crept up her spine. She wasn't his wife. She was his next reconstruction. She copied 3 of the worst videos onto her tablet and hid them inside the lining of her own coat. Then she called the only person she trusted, Trinity, her old college roommate, now a cybersecurity analyst in Atlanta. Their call was brief. Choppy. "Trinity, I think he's done this before. I have footage. Please, just..." "You're not on a secure line," Trinity interrupted. "Get somewhere isolated. Turn off everything. I'll ping your location." Blake owns the towers. You can't trace me. Trinity paused. Then listen carefully. Send the video files to this address. Print one copy. Hide it. If anything happens, people need to know. Amara was shaking now. Trinity, he killed them. I believe you. But you're not the first woman to say that. Make sure you're the last. That night, Trinity sent one final message. It was a video. The screen flickered to life. Trinity in her office, eyes darting between screens. You were right. There are death certificates. And not just one. The names match the files. The addresses lead to shell companies owned by Whitmore Holdings. And Amara. She leaned closer to the camera. There's a document dated 3 days ago. A death certificate. Your name is on it. Amara felt the room spin. No. I'm here. The screen cut to static. Seconds later, another message flashed on her phone. This device is now disabled by administrator. The screen went black. The estate was silent. Too silent. She turned and saw her reflection in the window. Behind her, in the dim glass, was Blake. Standing. Watching. Smiling. I told you, he whispered in the dark. Ghosts don't talk. Amara didn't sleep that night. She lay in bed, stiff beneath Blake's arm draped across her like a leash. Every breath he took was a warning. Every heartbeat in her chest thudded like a countdown. She was already dead on paper, buried in bureaucracy, murdered in advance. But Blake had made one mistake. He hadn't killed her yet. And as long as she breathed, she was dangerous. By morning, she had decided, no more hiding, no more waiting for mercy. She would vanish, but not quietly. She would burn down everything Blake had built, brick by brick. Her first move was Dr. Camille Vega, Blake's private physician, the only outsider granted full access to the estate, a woman who looked too tired to lie anymore. During Camille's routine visit, Amara faked weakness, even slurred her speech. I haven't been sleeping, she murmured, clutching her stomach. Blake says it's just nerves, but I think I'm pregnant. Camille froze mid-step. Blake told me you couldn't have children. Amara looked her dead in the eyes. Blake tells people what he needs them to believe. Camille's hand trembled. She set down the blood pressure cuff. Leave the needle in my room, Amara whispered. Leave the back door open next Tuesday. I'll handle the rest. Camille didn't answer, but she left the needle, and that was all Amara needed. Next came Eleanor's journal. She photocopied the final entries and tucked them into a sealed envelope labeled with a name. Detective Malone. A man Eleanor had once mentioned. A cop who had gone silent after Blake's lawyers cleaned house. If he was alive, he'd remember. If not, his widow would. On Tuesday, Amara woke early. Her heart was thunder in her throat. Blake was still in Denver, meeting with the governor's board. Camille's car was parked at the edge of the estate. The door was unlocked. She slipped out wearing staff clothes, her face hidden beneath a gardener's hoodie. The air outside felt like freedom and terror and ice in her lungs. She walked calmly. No running, no panic. But 20 feet from the gate, she heard it. The low growl of Blake's voice, somewhere behind her, shouting into a phone, and the whine of tires screeching on the gravel. A black SUV pulled in Blake's private driver. The car stopped. Amara froze. Her hands clenched. Her teeth ground together. Then she turned and bolted. Not for the gate, but for the forest. She ran like hell was on her heels. Branches tore her arms, her legs. Rocks shredded her knees. But she didn't stop. She couldn't. Behind her, men were yelling. Dogs barking. A drone hummed through the treetops like a mechanical wasp. She found the creek Eleanor had written about. A narrow stream under a stone bridge, where the signal went dead and the cameras lost view. She dove into the freezing water, lungs screaming, body going numb. She crawled beneath the bridge, hiding in the dark, heart pounding in the silence. For hours she lay there, soaked and shivering, the envelope tucked against her chest. And when the search dogs finally gave up, when the shouting faded into nothing, she pulled herself out of the mud and kept walking. There was no going back. She didn't need vengeance. She needed proof, and justice, and war. 2 months later, the news exploded across every major network. Billionaire Blake Whitmore under federal investigation for alleged pattern of domestic abuse, surveillance, and homicide disguised as suicides. Photos of Eleanor. Photos of the others. Leaked video stills from hidden cameras. A PDF of the fake death certificate bearing Amara's name. An anonymous voiceover recounting Blake's methods in chilling detail. It wasn't anonymous. It was Amara's voice, cracked, but unbroken. The video dropped at midnight. By dawn, the FBI raided Blake's estate. By noon, his empire was in free fall. But Blake himself had vanished. No trace. Not in the mountains. Not at the private airstrip. His passport flagged. His properties frozen. His name cursed. He was a ghost now, just like he wanted her to be. Only this time, she haunted him. Amara lived under a different name in an off-grid compound run by Trinity and a few powerful allies. A sanctuary for women like her. Survivors. Fighters. She didn't smile often. Didn't laugh. But her eyes were sharp now. Clear. Like someone who had walked through hell barefoot and built a throne from the ashes. On a rainy night, Trinity entered the cabin and dropped a package on the table. No return address, she said. No fingerprints. But it's for you. Amara stared at it. It was a small box, wrapped in black ribbon. Inside, a silver wedding ring. Her ring. The one Blake had designed. And beneath it, one photo. A grainy, time-stamped image. Blake, slumped in a Paris alleyway. Face bruised. Eyes open, but lifeless. A message was scribbled in ink across the back. For Eleanor. For the others. The Widowmaker. Amara's hand trembled as she turned the photo over again and again. She didn't ask who sent it. She didn't need to. Some justice is poetic. Some justice arrives wearing the same smile it was once forced to wear. Trinity sat beside her. You think it's real? Amara nodded slowly. I know it is. They burned the photo together that night. Ashes scattered across the lake. A year passed. Amara stood beneath a maple tree in a quiet cemetery. No press, no cameras, no lies, just a grave she had funded herself. Eleanor Whitmore, 1989 to 2021. She was never just a wife. Amara knelt and placed a single white lily beside the headstone. I made sure he didn't write your ending, she whispered. Then she opened her journal, Eleanor's journal, and added one final page. He tried to bury us, but we weren't seeds. We were bombs. She closed the book and walked away, not as Blake's widow, not as his victim, but as something far more dangerous, a survivor with a voice. And the world was finally listening.